Aaron. Oh. Oh. All right. Cancel culture. What does that mean? That means canceled. That means blank is canceled. You're canceled. I want to talk about it because, I think this is something that's probably been going on for a long time. We just have a new term for it. But I also think, I'm not a historian or anything, a social historian. I only know what I know. That's a dumb sentence. Anyway, I feel like in the past couple of years, it's really, really ramped up. I feel like people are just maybe in the last 1 year even, it's just oh, so-and-so's canceled. Like I said, it's just new terminology for things that people were doing before anyway, but now it seems like people are quicker to do that. It's really frustrating and annoying and goes along with stuff that's been happening the past couple of years which I think is just, again, ramped up. Part of it's because technology, part of it is good stuff movements that are supporting women's rights and things like that. There's a whole mix of things going on here. So when people get canceled with Louis C.K. or R. Kelly or whatever, I'm not saying that's not justified at all. Or Bill Cosby or whatever, and all of these things that I'm talking about are things that have to do with men abusing women in various different ways. So there's more going on than just that. Even if it's someone, if it's racism or whatever, right? Bigotry of all kinds. It's not a bad thing to cancel those people necessarily. I've kind of talked about this in videos before sometimes where it's what I hate is the fact that there's allegations and then people are canceled, right? Literally their shows are canceled or their book deals or their whatever, right? And we're talking about celebrities for the most part, people that have a certain amount of fame and notoriety and celebrity status, and that's what makes it a big deal, right? Is that people know who this person is, and then somebody sometimes says something, just says it, and then people start reacting to it like it's the truth immediately. Now, there's all this thing going on about, there's this, how do you do research, right? We rely on other people to do research sometimes, or we just, get our news off of Facebook or things like that. There's times where, how much research can I do on my own and feel confident with the results? Maybe none. Maybe there's really, I could spend 5 hours doing, I could do infinite research and still not feel confident that I know the truth, right? Sometimes the only people that are going to know the truth are the two people involved in whatever incident that may be. Sometimes there's no video evidence, even that could be manipulated, really, but there's no photo evidence, which also could be manipulated. If there's no hard evidence, sometimes it's just how do you know who to believe? And then the trend lately, which is not a bad one, 100% of the time, or in general, it's not a bad one, is to be okay, well, marginalized groups, oppressed people, we need to believe their stories, whether it's women or people of color or whatever it is. If someone is placed as the victim in the story, then all of a sudden it's kind of hey, well, you're probably the victim because you're in a oppressed, marginalized group, a minority of some nature, so automatically we need to trust and believe you. Which obviously doesn't work 100% of the time. Just because you are a minority doesn't mean you're a good person, doesn't mean you're a trustworthy person, doesn't mean that you don't have ulterior motives. So without any hard evidence, it's really difficult. And I find that ground really difficult to navigate because I think that people that deserve justice should, that they should have justice handed to them swiftly and to the extent of the law, or sometimes that's not enough. But there's other times where I'm how do I know, if this actually happened? Sometimes people come out, so let's use Louis C.K. as an example. I told myself before I was going to do this video that I wasn't going to use any specific examples, and here I am because they just illustrate the point, but I'm probably going to get caught up in a whole bunch of messed up stuff. Anyway, so from what I remember from the incidents, Louis C.K. didn't come forward with them until someone else brought the allegations forward, and then he was yep, that was me, I did it. I acknowledge that I was using my white male privilege and that I shouldn't have done these things. Like, and I mean, if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically the things that I'm thinking of in my head are times that he like whipped out his wiener in front of women without asking. Sometimes he did ask, and they were too afraid to say no, is what I remember. And some people said he didn't ask. I remember him addressing the times he did ask, saying like I asked, and then they said okay or whatever, and he still is having to apologize for the fact that like I was in a position of power, so they felt obligated to say yes, and I understand that now and whatever. So he admits all this stuff, and then it's just like Louis C.K. is canceled, and I say it in that voice because I don't like this is all about the fact like cancel culture, and I feel like there needs to be more critical thinking involved with every single thing. But also, it's interesting because as a recent trend, also in the past couple of years, there's this whole thing that where conservative people and more liberal people, there's like this what liberal people were maybe known for before. There's like kind of this difference in weighting, like weight, like WEIGHT. We're just like things that were kind of under the umbrella of conservatives or whatever, or just like their mannerisms and behaviors and things that help define them. Now I feel like some of that is flipping onto like more liberal stuff, and not in a good way. I find where it's just like jumping on a bandwagon and not having any tolerance, because we're having tolerance for, I mean, we liberal people or whatever you want to call them are having a lot of tolerance for the recognizing like, oh no, we need to be there for like marginalized groups, for minorities, whatever you want to call it, oppressed people. That's what we need to be there for. But again, those on an individual basis, everyone is different. Like, I'm a minority and maybe I'm a piece of garbage. So like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not automatic. Like, oh, if you're gay, then you're automatically you're cool. You're like you're good. You're an honest person. You don't manipulate anyone. You're 100% awesome. Great person. Or same thing as like, oh, you're a person of color, so automatically, or oh, you're a woman. Like, obviously, on an individual basis, people are crappy people, and I think the majority of people are crappy people, but neither here nor there. So it's just this thing where I find like there's all this tolerance and willingness to. I mean, a willingness to believe is different than automatic belief. It's like if a minority says something, then it seems like so many people right now are very vocal about like they're just like jumping on the bandwagon or like getting behind this person and backing them and it happens on social media all the time. Like I see it. I had a rant about buy and sell pages just the other week recently, and that stuff I see on there too. There was one today that was like, hey, this isn't buy and sell related, but I'm just letting everybody know, all the women here, that so and so, I don't even remember the dude's name, is like a piece of garbage, and he came over to my house and he hit on my 16-year-old daughter. So I just want people to know that he's not who he says he is or something. And I'm like, first of all, besides the buy, I'm not going to repeat the buy and sell rant, but like, people just started hopping on and being like, oh yeah, thanks for letting me know that guy sounds like trash. And it's like, yeah, he sounds like trash, whatever, but they were like in the attitude of like he is trash without acknowledging, oh yeah, I had the same experience, I know that for, like, one person says something and who knows why. They feel slighted, or whatever, right? Like it could be for any amount of reasons. It doesn't have to actually be the truth, and people just hop on, and now that dude's name is ruined. I feel like maybe I'm sensitive to it because I'm a man, and that I feel like, especially with profession and stuff like that, with teaching or whatever else, I'm just like, man, you understand like how easy it could be to just ruin my career if someone just said something about me that wasn't even true, not even remotely. There's no evidence. There's nothing. It's actually like, I don't want to put people's ideas in my head because that's what I feel like. I feel like as soon as I say that, it like my stomach sinks because I'm just like, that's all it takes is that, and then it's like canceled, like you're canceled, your life is canceled in some cases. I feel like that's what it comes down to. It's like, holy crap, do you understand? Like, you ruined someone's career that might be their like, to me, teaching is my passion, right? Like, I believe I'm there for the right reasons, and that I'm not a piece of crap person. I'm not looking to, take advantage and manipulate my students or whatever in any type of way. So it's just, anyway, that tangent on things that I fear as an educator, as a male educator especially, because women don't get accused of things as much and whatever else. Or maybe because they don't do things as much. Maybe that's a fact too. Anyway, this whole thing, cancel culture, is just... the fact that I'm even calling it cancel culture, rather than like, yes, some people need to get canceled, or we shouldn't support that person anymore. We shouldn't be backing them or whatever else because we feel like they've done. Everyone's done something though. Everyone's done garbage things. So I feel this is where I was talking about before. Sorry, this is a mess, but as per usual, I'm a mess. This is where like, I feel like the conservative and liberal thing is kind of flipped and it's weighted differently, and how we label or the attributes we attribute, the attributes we give to these labels are different than they were in some cases, because I feel like, yes, there's all this like support of minorities for liberal people or whatever, right? Liberal-minded people that like to think they're progressive, whatever labels you want to give them. I think we know we're talking about people that are, to me, social justice warrior. The warrior part is always like that term with when you add warrior implies like, maybe not imply, it gives it like a distaste because it's like a sarcasm, right? But I think like believing in social justice is something like when social justice, just that term kind of came up to me like when I was in education still, and taking my courses in education to become a teacher. I was like, okay, like I get this, and like, that felt good. It felt good to be a part of the social justice movement. And then the warrior gets attached onto there out of like a sarcasm and stuff. Like, you really believe in social justice? I'm about to sneeze. Oh. All right. If you believe in social justice and fight for that, that's great. The problem is that, like, you have all these social justice warriors, keyboard warriors, and all that stuff that gets lumped into the real social justice, and then it gives people who believe in social justice or want to use that term, it gives them automatically, like, a bad flavor in people's mouths. Like, it's just like, oh, like, because I don't even like that term anymore. Like, I don't want to identify with it because of how it's applied now, because of how many people are just really cringy and talk about it in a way while they're doing stuff that I think is negative for people who would normally want to represent themselves by saying, like, yes, I believe in social justice or whatever, right? Okay. And this is going to be a rant, and now I feel like it's a conversation. Maybe it can be both this week. Maybe it's both. There it is. It's both. New thing this week. This is a conversation and a rant. So, yeah, it's. Now I lost my train of thought. Thanks a lot. Anyway, okay, so that's what I was talking about, the flip-flop and the waiting and whatever else of these things, where I think liberal people are more entitled, or they feel like, okay, like we need to support these people, we need to blah blah blah, get behind these minorities and these groups or whatever, but there's no tolerance or understanding or patience for people that are accused of doing these things. Maybe they are the oppressor, or like in the majority, it's like, but okay, so and so can't help being a straight white male. You can't help that. Just like someone can't help being a black trans person. Like there's no helping that. Like, you can't help that. So just because this person was unfortunate enough to be here and they made a mistake, but the person over here maybe made the same mistake, there's way more tolerance and stuff for this person because of. There is a difference. Like, obviously, there's a difference in nurture, just by like systematically, like what this person had to go through versus what this person had to go through. So I understand where there's more tolerance and understanding and patience here, but at the same time, when for so long the people are just like, yeah, we need to be really understanding and patient, tolerant, all that stuff, but there's not enough of that over here. So when somebody, like, this is the thing, again, it just frustrates me so much. It's like, we can just believe this person over here, this is minority or whatever you want to call them, like, almost like that. Like, the majority of people just believe and get behind them because that's what you need to do, and that's better than the alternative. But then when someone owns up to their mistakes, and they're not crazy, heinous mistakes, sometimes, like, obviously there's allegations of rape and things like that, and those are big, huge things. There's heinous acts, there's other things that are more minute, smaller things, and I feel like sometimes people come out and they're like, yeah, like, I I own up to it 100%. That was me. It's a really shameful thing that I did. But there's no, like, then it's like, oh, you're canceled. Like, people don't want to believe this. Like, people can't be good. Like, um, people can't change, I guess. That people can't, you know what I mean? Like, in some cases, the only thing, when you lose trust, the only thing you can do to gain trust back is to not do crappy things for an extended period of time, right? So maybe in however many years that'll happen. But I mean, people like to talk about too, like, oh, well, so and so is still out there working, they're still making millions and this and that. But in some cases, that's not true at all. And again, because of just like an allegation, because of things that couldn't be proven, because there's time. Okay, like if we talk about Gameshi, like since I'm Canadian and whatever else, and know the story about like he was doing the like hosting. I forget the name of it now. It was a YouTube show, CBC. Oh, I really enjoyed it, and I forget the name of it. Anyway, he wrote a book. He did whatever. He was just like a personality, right? Interviewing style was great. I enjoyed it, and there's all this stuff about how he liked to. He was involved in like S&M culture a little bit or whatever, and that apparently some of the women that he was with, they didn't want that sort of treatment when he was being physically rough or aggressive or whatever. And there was this thing, and it went to court, and there was even shown evidence of like one of the women that brought these allegations to court that she was lying and stuff. And it doesn't matter; his career's over. Is the point? Like whether the evidence was even like I don't, again, it's just like. I don't know, and I wasn't there. I don't know if he's right or wrong. I don't know whatever, but it's just the cancel culture, the quickness to just jump on someone that's been accused and be like, "Hey, you're done. You're done." Like that's it. An accusation is not proof. That's my biggest thing. It's kind of like, hey, if this gets to the court, then I guess the court has to deal with it. And sometimes courts get it wrong too, all the time. Think about the other way around, like police brutality. Like courts. How many policemen have been charged? How many police officers have been charged with anything when there's video evidence of stuff? And be like, oh no, that was acceptable use of force. Like really? Like no, everybody can get it wrong. But the fact that this cancel culture is so like prevalent, so like just it's so like it's like people thinking that they're on the right side of things and they're too afraid to say I don't know. That if that happened, that really sucks. And this also goes back to like separating the art from the artist, because it's like, why do you gotta like just enjoy? Like it depends on what the person did. Obviously, everyone's got a different line, but it's like if you can enjoy the thing and do some critical thinking and enjoy whatever it is without having to financially support that person, that's one thing too. But like, I don't know. It's just a whole thing, and it's very unfortunate. I feel to see some of the stuff happening where people just get canceled for an accusation. I mean, it tends to be like, again, maybe I'm sensitive towards it, and I acknowledge that because I am like a straight man, and that is different than being like a woman, and that's like whatever. There's certain privileges that I have, and I recognize that, and maybe that's why I'm more sensitive to it. I'm trying to look at this objectively, though, because I think a lot of people aren't looking at it objectively, and there's just like so much going on where it's just ridiculously just like I said, people just want to jump on it and be like, yeah, I'm part of this. Like I hate this person now. They're garbage, and let's all boycott them. Basically, we should be boycotting a lot of other things rather than like celebrities, in my opinion. We should be boycotting certain companies. We could talk about like climate change. We could talk about like food. And chemicals and like there's so many things that you could be putting that energy into, but we don't for a lot of reasons. I don't know. I don't know where else to go with this. Cancel culture I think is ridiculous and stupid, and I don't like it. I think that things need to be slowed down. You need to be more objective, understand and admit that you don't know exactly what happened and you don't know who to support, and you hope things get figured out in the court of law rather than people just being like, no, you're done. Like, you vote with your wallet, and I do that a lot, and I understand that, and I get that. But that's not what things are anymore because of technology, because of social media and the internets and whatever else. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff where it's just like things just spread, and then that's it. And but the problem is, like, again, it's how we use these tools. And there's been a shift, I think, in like, again, maybe there's not been, but it's like, the internet was like, oh wow, there's all this information we can find and research and like get nerdy and like and it's just more accessible, right? Information more accessible, but information, you still have to think about whether you trust that information or not. People don't seem to be thinking about that enough. It's just like, oh, there's information there. Let's go. Like, I'm sharing it. I'm sharing it. I'm sharing it. Like this is garbage. This person sucks. Like, this is a horrible thing. Like, without knowing for sure. It's just automatically siding with the victim. And sometimes people are manipulative. Sometimes people claim to be victims to ruin someone else's life because maybe they have mental health problems. Maybe they feel slighted or whatever else. It could be as simple as just like, someone saying like, sorry, like I don't want to see you anymore. I found someone else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then it's like, yo, I'm gonna go and ruin your life. Like, it's the whole I had this rant early on about Carrie Underwood's song. Like, I don't remember the song about the dude cheating. Go back and watch that if you want. Because it's just like, it's in a 2 cent rant, and it's just like that. It's like that, but. Where it's just like, yeah, I'm just going to go and wreck this person's life because they did this thing. Like, I don't know. And it's just, sometimes whether that thing happened or not, it doesn't warrant the type of reaction that it gets. I think there's way more important things people could be doing, like learning how to use their minds properly and think critically. Like I said, there's some people that I deserve to get canceled or whatever, or maybe we shouldn't support them. But it's just so automatic, and just like it's just like people feel good about, or they want to feel good. Who doesn't want to feel good? But they do it in such a way where it's not about their own like accomplishments or their own things. It's like, yeah, I feel good because I shit on this person and I'm a part of the movement to destroy them because I think that they did something that I have no way of ever knowing if they did or not. But so and so like said they did it, so I guess they did.